Well, hello.
Hello.
Well, hello, ladies and gentles and jelly beans, and welcome to ScreenHour with me, Mikey.
And with me, Kieran.
So today we thought we'd mix it up a bit, and we haven't got one game or one film or TV show just to discuss. We thought we'd one of our favourite directors, both of us, and we've watched all of his films. Well, I've watched all of his films apart from one, and Kieran's watched all of his films. Is Christopher Nolan. So we thought we'd split them into categories and discuss them and why we've put it like that, and just our general thoughts on every film, just a broad, brief discussion on each one.
What we were thinking of is a while ago there was posts going out where it was a director's masterpiece, their best directing piece, their cult classic piece, their fan favourite, or their underrated sort of piece. So we thought it would be quite nice to sort of go through his collection, his catalogue of films, his only mainstream directorial films. So not necessarily anything he's produced or anything he's solely written, but he has to have directing it.
Yeah.
He was the director of the film. And we thought it'd be nice to start off with Christopher Nolan. I mean, this is quite a nice category, to be fair, because we can do this with all sorts of different directors, but we could also move it on in the future and do actors. All right, and I quite like the idea of doing a Tom Cruise one, especially after Top Gun or something.
Yeah,
and then
so
trying to find. So we could do a Tom Cruise one at some point. But no, this episode is solely based on Christopher Nolan. So he's got 12 main films, I think it is. I'll count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 main films, including Following, which was one of his earlier ones.
Some back in the day, film school or something.
Yeah, back in 98 that was.
Yeah.
It'll be 12 once Oppenheimer comes out next year. I mean, for me, I've been a fan since The Prestige, so I've actually known of Nolan before he did Batman Begins, and I mean, for most people, that's really where he launched. Well, he launched quite a bit from Batman Begins. Then The Dark Knight really rocketed him, but I feel like Inception was where he really made his staple.
Yeah, so Dark Knight came out in 2008, and Inception came out in 2010, just after 2 years later.
Literally
So that's what really skyrocketed him. But he's weird in the sense that he'll just leave a couple of years between films.
Well, it's because he's working on them.
But he
can throw out a film every year. It's knackering.
It is knackering, but I know him. But he hasn't really had a lull.
He's got a good
Some
spacing.
people, what I'm saying by that is some people leave it for a while.
Tarantino, I suppose. He's got a couple of years between
James
them.
Cameron takes forever.
Scorsese.
We was recently discussing how
Spielberg.
James Cameron 10 years to make the new Avatar.
Yeah. But yeah, and he's promoting Avatar 5, and it's mate, you ain't even done the second one yet. Chill out, chili beans. But so he's got a nice sort of pacing. He's got a good pacing with his releases as such. There's roughly 2-3 years between most films.
It's, if you could describe his entire, and it's quite hard to do this. You could describe his entire filmography with a genre. It's a thriller. That's what it's a
thriller. Is his genre, but his niche is time. He loves to mess with time. He loves to create different storylines and different.
That's such a trying in-depth way to try and capture 12 films.
No, but if you think about it, I mean, apart from Batman, a lot of them aren't linear. There's a lot of jumping back and forwards through different timelines. So he really, Inception, you've got the whole different dream states.
Interstellar, Inception and Tenet, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Interstellar, it's still linear, but with the bits of the whole, the dust particles and Morse code, the books dropping off the bookshelf and all that, that's passing back through time. So he loves to mess with time.
What I'm personally going to like about us recording, and hopefully you guys as listeners and audience enjoy this, is that how it'll be quite antagonistic and not conflict, but good at winding Kieran up. Because I'll tell you now, my least favourite and the worst film he's done is Interstellar.
That fucking pisses me right off.
And it's Kieran's favourite film.
It's not just my favourite Christopher Nolan film. It's my favourite film ever.
Favourite film ever. And like I said to him a couple of times, it's okay to be wrong in life. It really is.
I'm not wrong. It's a brilliant film. I'm not saying it hits
entire
every
film
mark.
has, like,
It's just for me personally, it was everything I wanted it to be. It was clever, but it wasn't trying too hard. That it overdid its plot, like Tenet, where it got a little bit too confusing with Tenet. You got to rewatch Tenet a few times to really sort of understand what the hell's going on. So it's not overly convoluted, but there is that sort of mystique there as such. But I'm obsessed with space. I absolutely love space. And for him to do a sci-fi thriller...
I know it leans more towards you because you really like space, but I'm not saying it's a really bad film. It just happens to be, like, a bad film out of, like, Christopher Nolan's, like, dare I say it, prestige
You can't
films.
call it a bad film. You just say it's a film that you're less inclined to watch.
It breaks its own back.
Because, I mean, you call that a bad film, but then, like... You know, I know some real bad films. Like, my most hated film is Passenger 57. I fucking hate that film. It's a Wesley Snipes film. And it's no shame on Wesley Snipes. It's just, growing up, it was always on TV, right? So my dad was always like, oh, I'll just throw that show on. And it's like, Daddy, it guys pisses me off so much because it was always fucking Passenger 57. I hate it. I hate it.
So... The entire film has good, it's not science fiction until the last 20 minutes of the film, where it's okay, you can travel between time and go to a black hole and communicate to your daughter because of love. And it's really tight up until then. I'm not, I haven't got a PhD in physics.
Do you understand?
But it's got praise for that so many times, and, like, leading up to it, everything, like, makes sense. And when they're like, like 2 hours on here is 20 years in their time, and just stuff like that. Stuff like that's really cool, and it kind of makes sense.
Kind of makes sense. What do you mean? Kind of makes sense?
Because
it's fucking science.
It's science. But that's my point. It's science.
A theory of relativity.
The whole film is science and relativity, and then boom. Oh, it's love. It's okay. It's love.
No, it's not.
Jessica Chastain's dying. Oh, that's a fun bit. I don't know. It's just...
No, we perceive it as love because it's the one construct we can't understand as humans. Why do we love?
You can't understand that. I think that's just
because it's like another thing of, like, you don't know why you love unconditionally. You don't know why you love, like, as
it makes life
character
fun.
Says. But you don't fully understand the emotion. Like, how are we wired to make that work?
Does it have to be measured? Like, does it have to understand it if you enjoy it, do you?
Yeah, but if you want to be scientific and look at the facts and... all right, we're going nowhere with this.
So Interstellar's the worst Christopher Nolan film. Second up, I know this sounds like we're, like, hitting off in a really negative manner, despite really, like, saying how great
you're hitting off in a negative manner. I'm being positive here. Anything I slagged off is Passenger 57.
Is Dunkirk. Dunkirk has, like, pretends to have loads of heart, doesn't have much heart. It has, like, heart in the last 2 minutes when, like, every man and his dog comes to save him in their rowboats. That's quite nice. But
so hold on. So you're saying that his second worst film is Dunkirk?
His second worst film is Dunkirk.
Oh, mate. I'm actually glad we did this episode because we are so juxtaposed on this. Like,
and you mentioned Tenet isn't good. Tenet is so...
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just saying it's over complex.
Yeah, it's over complex, but I think
I appreciate what he tried to do.
If you don't enjoy how complex the plot is, it is an incredible action film.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth watching it just for Kenneth Branagh's Russian accent. If I'll be honest. There's some bits with the audio which is a bit ropey, but it's sacrilege to have, like, a American James Bond. But John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son, him in it, is incredible. He's so suave and charismatic. And I know we have an episode about the Batman, but Robert Pattinson in that, leading up just before the Batman, because he came out like 2 years ago, or 2021, I think, maybe 2020.
2020, tell me.
That he had been announced as Batman then, and it just makes you get hyped for it. And Elizabeth Debic's really cool in it.
I had no idea how tall she was as well. She,
Yeah, I think she's like 6'3" maybe or something stupid.
I don't know if she's that tall, but she's definitely over 6.
She's tall, really tall for a chick, bless her.
Yeah.
But again, she's really cool, and you realise she's entrapped in, like, you know, domestic abuse relationship is a bit of an understatement when that guy's like, he's a bit of a villain, let's say.
Yeah, just to, you know,
just
off herself, but
just off herself. She just want to leave her kid. She's not a damsel in distress. Anybody in that relationship or marriage would be having a bad time, and you feel for that, and you feel that he'd try his best to rectify that, as well as the stakes, which, you know, the whole world is going to get blown up, type of thing, or inverted. That's it, inverted. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I know. If you ask me to explain the plot to you now, beat by beat, I'll be like, he asked me why he's doing everything. Yeah, I'd struggle even though I watched it twice or 3 times. I haven't watched it recently.
What's Tenet?
What's Tenet in my ranking?
No. What is it? What does the word mean?
Let's go back in time, innit? To reverse it. To
be honest, I don't really know.
Exactly. But I think that's part of the fun of it. It's part of the mystery, and that's why it's better than Dunkirk.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Okay.
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk is it's a documentary. It's not necessarily a film.
Makes the British military look weak as well, and we like that. That's what I don't like. It's to say that as I'm a man who's been in the military
like the
for
main
40
character,
years. I'm not.
That was called Tommy, right? He was called Tommy because he was meant to be like an everybody.
Tommy Shelby. Yeah, Tommy Shelby, innit?
No, I'm not on about Cillian Murphy. I'm on about the lad. Right at the beginning of the film, I can't remember the Finnan something.
Oh, is it?
Finnan.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Finnan Whitehead. Is that it?
Yeah.
His character was called Tommy, and he was meant to be called Tommy because he's like an everybody. So everyone's meant to be. He's just meant to be like, you know, like a Tommy gun sort of thing. Yeah. He's just like the cannon fodder, and it's just how he deals with the situation, right? And it's meant to be more sort of like, you know, anyone on that beach could have been him. You know, so he's not necessarily a main character. But I felt like, because there was, as you say, apart from, say, Cillian Murphy character.
You can't attach to anybody, it's too much of an ensemble thing. And I know.
What's the fella's name? The older fella? BFG.
Mark Rylance.
He, apart from his bits and then Cillian Murphy's bits, those are the main bits of, like, sort of power and motive.
He accidentally kills a kid, doesn't he?
Yeah. That was
spoilers. Yeah, there'll be also. By the way, I know we've spoiled a lot of the.
Well, they've been out long enough now.
Yeah, there's spoilers for every Christian Nolan film.
Yeah, this is full on spoilers here. So, yeah, they are the main emotive bits, really. Mark Rylance and Cillian Murphy. There's no real emotion beforehand, but it's mostly it's the journey. It's the epic scale of it. That's what the film is.
I'm not naive in the sense that obviously war is. Yeah, it has a big scale because, you know, it was World War One and Two are a big deal. Let's face it. But so you've got to cover a lot of aspects. But I think that's where it struggles, is that you don't get attached to anybody apart from the people we've just discussed.
Yeah,
and that's where it falls flat for me.
Well,
but like I say, if it was on now, and like I had to watch a film when it was one of those. It was on the TV, I'd be like, yeah, of course I would.
With Dunkirk, the jet scenes, I think, was the best part of the film for me. I think everything was good, but the bits that I always look forward to was seeing the Spitfires, because those scenes were just epic. They were just on like a totally different scale to everything else. And then again, with his, you know, you got the mole is 1 week, and then the sea is like a couple of days, and then 1 hour is on the planes. And I liked how, again, he's messing with time.
So what's your least favourite? I've said both my least favourites are Dunkirk.
My least favourite? I think it's got to be Tenet.
It's not... Oh, it's Tenet.
Yeah, I think Tenet's my least favourite. But that's like saying my least favourite...
Pizza. Pizza's great. Like.
Yeah, I love every pizza, but my least favourite pizza is probably, I don't know, just plain margherita. Yeah, I still love plain margherita, but...
To contradict what I've just said, I totally forgot until I checked and done some research just before we started recording. Insomnia. If I'm being
So
honest,
that was Robin Williams and Al Pacino, and he didn't write it; he just solely directed that. Because Pacino's a director. Pacino's a detective, and Robin Williams is a writer.
That's
investigating a murder.
That's a good film. That's
I
like
think.
I put that as his underrated, like his cult film, because I feel like not a lot of people know about that.
So you're going for like a cult film is Insomnia.
Yeah.
For my cult film. This is the cult film, not necessarily because it's in a sense one of his early first films, Memento, right? But I would also, / Tenet as a cult film, because it didn't do as well as everyone predicted it to do at cinema. And I reckon in a couple of years' time, right, when it's been out and people have watched it a few times and stuff, people will start getting a bigger appreciation for it. Like the Star Wars prequels, like people slated it at the time, but now, like with Obi-Wan, the Kenobi TV show, right? People are absolutely bombing off the prequels again, like. So I feel like, given time, I reckon Tenet could become like a big cult classic. I mean, that's trying to predict the future, I don't know. So that's why I'm like, / in brackets Tenet, but I probably would say Memento is probably his cult classic. I mean, is that the one you haven't seen?
Yeah, I haven't seen Memento, but unfortunately, just being the film nerd I am, I know the twist of it, so I haven't had the time or cannot be bothered to watch it back, because once you know the twist,
can't be bothered. You'd watch it because it's a brilliant film, not just because you already know what it is. I mean, what's the struggle is I don't think it's on any streaming service.
That's one
because it's like an older sort of thing.
It's an older film, came out in 2000. That's another reason. Insomnia is definitely worth a watch. It's a good thriller detective film.
Yeah,
it's a really good thriller detective film, and for what it's worth, solely just to see one of Robin Williams' few serious performances, and when he's an antagonistic character.
His Good Will Hunting performance was better.
I don't know, I wouldn't say it's better, but it's good to see him be a dick.
Yeah.
Because not very often is a dick. I know what you mean, in the sense that he's more soulful and more compassionate in Good Will Hunting.
Mm.
But yeah, it's nice to see him totally different. So, as for my underrated spoilers, I put Tenet, because that should have done bad in the box office.
It should have done better than it did, but I also think it was the wrong film for everyone to go back to the cinema for, because it was after the pandemic, right? People were all wanting to go back out to the cinema and everything, and you go to cinema and Tenet's the first thing, and that just bombards you with so much information. It's an overcomplicated plot in some sense, or many senses, right? So I don't think that's what people wanted. I imagine if something, like Top Gun Maverick or something was the first thing people saw after lockdown, right? And Tenet came out like a year later, right? It probably would have done better, to be honest, because we'd all been back in that sort of movie-going environment as such, because it's not one of those... Christopher Nolan's films don't tend to be big summer blockbusters unless they were like, the Batmans, right? They tend to be sort of... I don't know what you'd call them. They're not blockbusters, but they're not, ones that go missing. They're at the cinema for like a week or two.
They still get the attention they deserve, but not.
Yeah, they pull in.
You wouldn't define them as a summer blockbuster.
They pull in a more certain type of audience. They're not going to pull in the dum-dums of society. They're not really going to pull those people in to watch it.
I think that's rather patronising.
But whereas Top Gun and stuff, that's sort of like proper summer blockbusters.
You like Top Gun?
I fucking love Top Gun. No, but what I'm saying is, right, is Top Gun is something for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah,
it's something for everyone to enjoy. It's a very simplistic plot, but it's brilliant the way it's done, right? Whereas Nolan, he doesn't treat the audience as stupid. So if there is stupid audience, right, that can't string things together and can't understand certain plots as such, they're going to have a harder time enjoying the sort of film.
See, that's why, not to defend Tenet again, because this isn't just the defend Tenet recording. But that's why one of the reasons I like it, because I enjoyed watching it. But even now, I'm still not mega 110% sure on the plot. So you'd rewatch it again to understand the plot a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when Inception came out, a lot of people struggled with that one as well, but it did do a lot better.
So
like I say, I think it was timing. I think the timing of the pandemic.
I put Inception is his masterpiece. Purely, there's a lot going on there, and it's done so masterfully. And I remember people saying, "Oh, did you get it?" or whatever to like general people, and it's not hard to get it, but you've got to pay attention.
Yeah, if you pay attention and take everything at face value, it's not trying to trick you. You know, just what they're telling you, just understand it. Don't think that the what the actors are saying is they're trying to trick the audience, and so you need to, you know, really overthink what the actual plot is. They're literally telling you what the plot is. I feel like that's the thing with most things that Nolan does. It's take things at face value, right? Don't try and overcomplicate it for yourself, because then you make everything overcomplicated and you don't know where to stand.
I think the best thing about it is purely just the concept. So the concept, it's generally mad, and I haven't watched every film ever, but spoilers, I've watched quite a lot. That before then, and before 2020, nobody had done a concept similar. The closest thing I could think of is Flatliners, which is a film which came out in the 80s, they were reboot recently. It's a group of medical school students, and they try to kill each other, and then revive each other back. So, spoilers, clues and told, flatlining. And they trip balls, and they have, like, really, like, mad premonition dreams and stuff. And they, like, while they're quote-unquote dead, and then they come back. But that's more of, like, it tries to be a horror. But the whole dream, people going into different dream states, it's not really explored into a mainstream other than Inception. Don't get me wrong, Inception's been parodied since and ripped into. But it's just absolutely gold. It's turned into a thriller. The ensemble cast is solid. And it's mainly Leonardo's film and his journey. But everything flows.
I mean, it really gave Tom Hardy a platform to shine as well, because, I mean, you saw him in a couple of things beforehand, but that's when he made his name. That's when he made his staple.
Yeah, you got to dream bigger, darling. Where's your imagination?
Yeah.
That's like absolutely boss scene.
So, you say Inception's the masterpiece?
Yeah.
See, Inception's down as my best director, not his masterpiece.
I think
because it is a brilliant. I mean, before Interstellar came out, Inception was my favourite film ever, right? But because Interstellar was space, right, and Interstellar made me laugh and it made me cry. I mean, I fucking ugly cried. Like I was there with
Matthew McConaughey.
that got me so bad. I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was like, just leave me, just let me have this moment. Let me cry. Like I was so absorbed in that film, and that's why I was like, Inception didn't make me cry, and I feel like to get that level of emotion, right, I obviously felt more connected to it, so I thought it's taken over my top list of my favourite film. But so best director for me, you know, his best of direction is for Inception, but his masterpiece, right, for me, is his Dunkirk, because it's completely different to anything he's done before in a way. You know, it's still got that sort of time element going on, which he loves to play with, but it's something beyond the scope we've seen before, not just from him, but from other directors and other film production companies or whatever. You know, it was something that was just on a grand scale. It was just completely something new. And I felt like, I'm not saying he doesn't put all his hard work into every project he does, but for that one in particular, you just know he's really proud of Dunkirk. To me, that is his masterpiece. You know, because I'm not saying your masterpiece has to be your greatest film. You know, it's just the one that
I think
everything comes together collectively to create a solid grounding. Because, like I said, Dunkirk's not my favourite film ever, but I think it is his masterpiece.
Yeah, I can see why you'd think that, but I don't know, I just can't connect with it as well. As I said, it's
yeah, I understand. Like, it's taken me.
As well.
I mean, Dunkirk came out in 2017. I mean, it's taken me 5 years to realise that's probably his masterpiece so far. so far. Because when I watched it in cinema, I was like, wow, this is really different, really new. But came out of the cinema thinking, it's so like different, because there was no, like we've mentioned, there was no sort of emotive journey necessarily, apart from Cillian Murphy, Mark Rylance. There's no real emotive moments as such that. Well,
see, that's why I think Interstellar shines. I think not Interstellar. Well, definitely not Interstellar. Inception shines because it has a lot of intrigue, and you're on the edge of your seat, and you want to know how they managed to convince Cillian Murphy, but also what's going on. I can't remember his ex-wife. Well, it's not ex-wife, his dead wife. Her name. Madge.
Well, it's Marion Cotillard is the character.
Yeah.
Maul,
that's it. Maul. That and how Ellen Page's character,
Elliot
now. Their character clocks what's happening and really persuades and tries to discourage them carrying on with the mission, because Maul really jeopardises everybody else.
Yeah, because she's infiltrating his dreams, because he's using her totem.
Yeah, using her totem, and it's not a good idea, but it's...
Yeah, but that's why for me it's his best directorial piece.
It's really tight work.
Yeah, it's...
Something I say, and Kieran, I presume, will even more bum off this point, but considering he discussed and he saw him live, is a lot of his films wouldn't do nowhere near as good if they didn't have Hans Zimmer involved.
Well, for me, like...
I think it's a huge element of his films.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer is a massive... I don't know if that's also why I was slightly unkeen on Tenet, because there was no Zimmer. I feel like there is a part there.
Is he not in it at all?
No, it's... he does the Mandalorian theme.
Oh, Ludwig
Göransson.
Is
that right?
Yeah, that's it. It's good though, it is. Yeah,
it's solid, good. But it's... For me,
he's
no Zimmer. I'm obsessed with Zimmer.
More. That's just more. The Inception, it was in every trailer and still is not.
Oh, the Born. Yeah. His Interstellar theme work is better than his Inception theme work, but his Inception theme work is still incredible.
No, but the Inception theme work is as you say, it's really incredible. It just doesn't determine the quality of someone's piece of art, but when it connects and it's more mainstream, I think it shows how people react to it better. Whether that means it's better, whether it means it is of higher quality. You could play or any part of the Inception soundtrack, and I'd say a good 8 out of 10 of moviegoers would get it. I don't know about the Interstellar one. I couldn't do it with Interstellar. I could do it with Inception straight away.
I mean, there's a few people I've spoken with through the years and stuff, and they've loved the Interstellar soundtrack over the Inception one, because the Interstellar one's got more of a transcendic sort of tone to it, because it's traveling through the cosmos and sort of it's quite sort of airy, I suppose, especially with the synths and the organ and the way it's used, because the organ is an airy instrument. But whereas Inception, there's a lot more synth electronic sort of play there. So it's a bit more wiry, which I suppose if you think about it, it's because you're messing with your dreams. I've only just come to this realisation, you're messing with your dreams, which is electric, nodes going, bouncing around in your brain and using the electric synths and stuff in the music. Oh, I've just created a collation I didn't realise existed.
Something to put you on the spot a bit, and I think this is a bit of an obvious one. A lot of filmmakers tend to work with the same person or the same actor or an actress. Who's your favourite actor he's worked with the most?
He's recurring.
Is a recurring person.
Obviously Michael Caine is his most. Michael Caine.
It's probably Christian Bale, but I don't think.
For you, it was our first heard.
I think my favourite, despite Batman being probably my favourite personal, and it's probably Batman Begins, despite everyone bumming off Dark Knight because of the Joker. I've put that's his fan favourite.
So you put them what? Which one is his fan favourite?
Dark Knight.
I agree. 100% agree with that.
Because everybody...
It's not saying it's
a cliche.
it's like bad or it's not like it's not a contender for masterpiece, best director or anything like that. It's just everyone bums of the Dark Knight,
the podcast
us included.
I listen to Take the Piss, like Credit to the Weekly Planet, and they were saying, "Oh, it should be Dark Knight for the Joker. The Joker, Mark, get an end. The Joker performance in itself." And because everyone says that's the best thing about it. And it is one of the best elements.
So you reckon if it was any other Joker, like any other actor had played Joker, right, you don't think it would have done as good?
No, not so much that. I think the Joker's... It would have been. Heath Ledger's performance is incredible, don't get me wrong.
Mm.
But it carries a lot of it, doesn't it?
I mean, it is the crux of the film, in a sense. You know, it is the main talking point of the film is Ledger's Joker.
So I prefer... I don't want to be that hipster guy like you are. You usually take that role in the podcast. But I prefer Batman Begins. And I actually really like Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises, I was half tempted to put as my underrated. Because it's actually not that bad whatsoever. It's just... There's not as good as The Dark Knight.
For me, Dark Knight Rises, there's a couple of shortcomings. I feel like there's some corners cut. I mean, there's a bit that always comes to mind, right? Where, you know, when the police manage to break out of, being underground and then they start walking down the street to go take them on, right? There's only enough space for one police in this town, right? And then they get absolutely gunned down, right? First of all, I was like, bullshit tactics. You just walk at them, of course you're going to die. But also... right, they got absolutely mauled to death, right? And then the camera, shows them on the ground. There is not a single bullet hole in that uniform.
That's because it was 12 either.
They could have just got some ketchup or something. There was nothing there. There was just there's a couple of those sort of shortcomings that I was like, obviously, the biggest problem with that film is a particular person's death.
Whose person's death?
Marion Cotillard's death when she's in the truck. And she goes,
It's not that bad.
It was the worst acting I've ever seen in my life.
She doesn't die in the truck.
She does. She gets crushed. No, she gets crushed in the cab because the cab goes smack off the off an interstate section or something down down underneath, and it crushes.
Anne Hathaway get her. Anne Hathaway gets her.
No, Anne Hathaway kills Bane. She dies in the truck.
Oh yeah, she died.
Right, and there's even how it should have ended history, right? They even did a bit where they animated that bit, and then Jim Gordon kind of goes, "Worst death ever." It's fucking horrible. I mean,
it is weird. It takes you out considering how serious Christian Nolan films are, and they appeal to a higher class audience, as Kieran says. But it does seem something off of. Now I remember it, and you are right. It does seem quite out of place, and it's quite funny.
There's a few shortcomings. I mean, those are the ones I can think of, but I know if I watch it again, I'm like, that bit. Not to slate it too hard, but there was a...
No, I think Dark Knight Rises...
But I will agree that I do personally...
Bane challenges Bruce on intellectual and physical level. He doesn't have that in any of the other films. He doesn't get his hat handed to him in any of the other films. And
yeah, he does.
Go on.
Liam Neeson. He batters him.
No, he doesn't.
He drops a log on him.
He doesn't really.
What's the point of you doing all those push-ups? You can't lift one bloody log.
Oh, when your house is on fire.
Yeah, but he outsmarts him, and then Bruce has to, he has to mature. And then he's like, you never learn.
But I feel like that's not as impactful as when he gets absolutely mullered by Bane.
Oh yeah, Bane.
I feel like in Batman Begins.
Some of the punches from Bane, they look. I don't really want to get punched ever, but I specifically do not want to get punched by Bane.
I think it shows how complacent Bruce has got there in Dark Knight Rises. He's throwing the smoke bombs like he would on Batman, on the Batman Arkham Knight games, and I was moulded by it now. I was a man before I saw the sun. He just absolutely wipes the floor with it.
Deception of powerful agents to have
So,
created.
mockery is what's the saying go? Mockery is the best form of flattery.
Yeah.
And I think that's a staple of the Christopher Nolan films. Whether it's because he pretends to be so highbrow and they're so easy to take the piss off. But a lot of his films have been took the piss out, whether it be the Inception, like sound effects.
But it's because they are such big films.
But it's because they are such big films and they are do have good points.
But going back, I think I agree with you that I think I prefer Begins over Dark Knight. I mean, it is like so close that I could go choose either film, but I feel like Batman Begins has got a darker tone, and I quite like that darker tone. I mean, I mentioned it when we watched the Batman, Pattinson's Batman. Right, I like that darker tone, and I felt that Begins had a darker tone to Dark Knight, but. I mean, I can change from one day to the next of which one I prefer.
I just think, especially during and the age we are when we grew up, going to the cinema, it would have been like 2005. And that's when, not the MCU, but when a lot of the superhero films started. So there's a lot of origin films about. And Batman Begins is not boring. It's not a boy in numbers origins film. It doesn't fuck about. It shows Bruce in the Monarch Theatre with his parents. They get wrecked. Poor Thomas and Martha. Where do you know that name? And it doesn't. It's not at this point. Then it's not 2016, and they've been murdered half a dozen times. So you appreciate and have more time with that.
Yeah, but I like.
He tries to kill Joe Chill. I like that again. I like that. He tries to kill Joe Chill.
Yeah, and then Rachel smacks the shit out of it.
Yeah, because.
You would?
You would. And that's...
And that shows the immaturity.
I think the best things about all of Nolan's films, apart from Interstellar, where it throws out the window, is his realism. But especially with Batman.
To be fair, his Batmans are grounded. They're like, if Batman was going to be a real person, his Batmans seem the most realistic. Although Pattinson's Batman is also looking on the
his introduction of the League of Shadows, or the League of Assassins, I can't remember what they call it in the Nolan films.
The League of Shadows
is a good way.
The League of Shadows.
Of Bruce coming to the idea of becoming the Batman they need. Criminals are superstitious. They need something to be scared of, and more theatric. But also, it makes sense how ninjas would come in to be the Batman. I know that's obviously the source material, which is over 75 years old now, but it's a good way of shaping it.
Yeah,
it's not just all of a sudden. I'm scared of bats now. Maybe grown men who like rape and kick fuck out of people. Maybe they're scared of bats. It's a good logical step, and it introduces it well.
If I'm scared of bats, everyone's scared of bats.
Everyone's scared of bats. So Begins is great. Also, fun fact: apparently, Cillian Murphy wanted to play Bruce. He auditioned for Bruce. Spoilers, never got it, and that's how he became like Jonathan Crane. It was nice, and despite, obviously, in 2008, The Dark Knight coming out and Joker was the main villain, and especially in hindsight now, it was nice for Christopher Nolan's Batman first outing not to be a Joker.
Yeah.
And I know, like, it's weird pretending to be tired of a character in 2022, but even back in 2005... The Arkham game hadn't came out now. The Arkham game came in 2009. The first Arkham game. But it's good for the Scarecrow. Scarecrow doesn't get a lot of shine in the general Batman media, never mind like general film media.
Done well as it was, Scarecrow can be quite a formidable opponent.
Yeah, and he does the corruption of Batman Begins does it really well.
Yeah.
So the favourite like collaborator... No, I think I farted and Bob Brown. It's got to be Christine Bell. It's the most frequent one, and it's all his films. Even if you took Batman out, my favourite film, I put best work, not so much favourite film, because my favourite film is Batman Begins, as we just discussed, really. But his best work is Prestige.
So you say that's his best work? I say that's his underrated piece.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can marry that, because it's so different to all his other films, and the twist in it is something. Once you know about the twist, you'd rewatch it again to see clock the clues.
Yeah,
I know at the end it says it explains why.
It's almost like a whodunit in a way, where you're trying to piece it together of who murdered who sort of thing. But it's like, what is the trick? What is the twist?
What it handles really well.
The twist, the turn, and the pledge.
Yeah, the twist, the turn, and the Prestige. Isn't it?
No, but that like there's
approach.
3 parts
Yeah,
to
yeah,
every
the 3
trick.
parts of every trick. But what it does really well is handling, and you both caring about Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale.
Yeah, there's no antagonist.
Yeah, there's no good guy
necessarily.
or bad guy. You just end up sympathising for both. Like.
I think it's his underrated piece because I don't think many people have seen it.
I think if you have seen it, like,
there's
you think it's a
fair amount
great
of people
film.
that have seen it. But if you were to say, if you ask people roll off Nolan films, Interstellar, Inception, Batman,
Yeah, it'll be on the bottom of their list.
yeah.
I think it's absolutely gold.
I reckon Memento would be said more than The Prestige as well. Like if people were to say what films.
I think it came out just. It might even been after Batman Begins.
Batman Prestige.
Yeah, it's 2006, just after Batman Begins,
Yeah.
and just before Dark Knight, obviously.
I don't know what like the production time like. They couldn't have filmed them alongside one another.
Also, I haven't watched, and I know he's in Labyrinth as an absolute mad wild card character.
I mean Barry.
Yeah, Barry. I haven't watched a lot of films with Barry, and Barry's like really cool in that.
Yeah.
And Andy
He
Serkis for that matter. Andy Serkis is
Yeah.
really weird in there. It's a good character.
I'd actually love to see Serkis come back for another Nolan installment of whatever in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think Serkis as an actor is severely underrated. People consider him as just a CGI guy. But yeah, we've gone through our listings there. I mean, my masterpiece is Dunkirk. My best director is Inception. My fan favourite is The Dark Knight. Cult classic is either Memento brackets Tenet, depending, and then my underrated would be Prestige.
Yeah, my masterpiece is Inception. Fan favourite is Dark Knight because it's the most mainstream. Best work is Prestige. Underrated is Tenet. The cult one is Insomnia, and my least favourite is Dunkirk and Interstellar.
You can't have two least favourite.
Oh,
Your least favourite.
Least favourite, more so to piss you off, is definitely Interstellar.
I'll beat you up.
I'll say it now. Better Matthew McConaughey film is The Gentleman. Better Matthew McConaughey film is The Gentleman. Matthew McConaughey is a lot more fun in that film. Like.
Sahara is a better McConaughey acting than The Gentleman.
Oh, no, it's not. Sahara is the most 2000s film, generic action film there is.
Exactly, it's brilliant.
For what it's worth, if for some reason you could only watch a director's filmography, and this is probably one of the reasons we've chose to do Nolan first, is because he has absolutely great films. They're all good. Like, me saying Interstellar is his worst one doesn't mean it's a shit film. It's just the worst out of a great bunch. So what did you say is your worst one?
My worst one is probably Tenet.
Tenet. Again, like...
But like I'm saying, it's not like it's the worst of his. It's not like the worst film in the world. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But I mean, all right. If you were to say, if you were introducing Christopher Nolan to someone and you said one film for them to watch, what would it be?
I think it would be The Prestige, purely because it's quite an emotional, not a mega emotional film, but it's quite an emotive film. It's very easy to follow. You could watch it, not half-assed, because I don't think you should watch any film half-assed.
No.
But you could watch it a bit half-cocked, and it's great. You'd really enjoy it.
I'm somewhat inclined to say the same thing, because, I mean, that was the film that introduced me to Nolan, really, was The Prestige.
I remember watching it when I was, 12 or something, 13, still, fully appreciated it.
But I'd probably be inclined to say Inception. If I was going to introduce Nolan, like I said, it's his best directorial piece. So I think that would be the one I'd be inclined to introduce to people that have never watched a Nolan film before. An easy option would be to choose a Batman, but I think Inception shows him as an individual director. He's not just like a superhero director.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because despite me loving Batman, a lot of people, especially nowadays, if for some reason they haven't watched a Nolan film, they hate superhero films. Yeah, it's just they just might think it's another superhero film, it's another Batman film.
Yeah.
But I hope you enjoyed that type of category or topic.
Yeah.
Let's discuss.
To be fair, I think that's the most we've butted heads.
Normally, most animated and butted heads. We're usually more agreeable.
Yeah.
With each other. But quite enjoyed that. We're going to do more topics like this in the future because, like you say, it's quite broad and it invites more
conversation.
Conversation.
I guess that concludes this episode. I guess before if we talk about Nolan too much and if you start slagging off Interstellar, I'm gonna start to cry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I am looking forward to seeing Oppenheimer. To be fair, I'm interested to see where he goes with that because I mean, if you think about it, in a nutshell, it's not going to be a very actiony film, is it?
My point with Oppenheimer.
I mean, Oppenheimer's not going to be, like fucking running from explosions and, he's going to take down the Russians to, there's nothing going on like that, is it? So it's interesting exactly how they're going to tackle this and how he's going to mess with time in particular.
All the time, eh?
Yeah.
No, I just think it's going to have to illustrate why it was so important, why they thought we'd have to make an atom bomb.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of a big deal.
And
it'll be interesting because you know the ending. It's not so, like, you're going to have to make it pretty interesting, pretty captivating.
Considering the science and stuff he put into Interstellar as well, right?
And the love.
It'd be interesting, how accurate and scientific this will be as well. So, might even learn something.
So for moments of the week,
Regular scheduled programming.
we both went to Imagine Dragons gig last night, and that was amazing. Kieran's a diehard Sweat fan for him. He's been a hipster from the beginning.
And I'm not just saying I've been a hipster from the beginning.
He actually has. But it was my first Imagine Dragons
I came across Imagine Dragons.
And I thought it was great. I pissed on Kieran's chip when I said this, but I said, they're a lot better than I expected, and I thought it was amazing. And
Yeah.
Kieran was like,
Mikey was behind me as he said this. He was like, they're a lot better than I thought they'd be. And I was like in front of him, and I just did that slow turn with my head, and just looked at him like, you fucking what? This is my 4th time seeing them.
Well,
the
they were
best band
amazing.
you've ever seen.
And if you want to see them again soon, I'll book it soon, because whenever they release tickets. Because for some reason, they only, in this tour especially, there was only in the UK once, and it was Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I think most of them, they've only ever been to one show in the country, because I think they're trying to hit as many countries as they can, sort of thing.
But they were very high octane, and it was great fun.
Yeah. What we didn't realise until it was a bit late was it absolutely pissed it down with rain, and we realised
The UK had its hottest day.
The hottest week.
Hottest day and the hottest week.
Right.
The day before. And then the day after, it absolutely smashed down for the entire game. The entire day, essentially.
Yeah. And we thought that there'd be like a retractable roof on the stadium. Boy, we were wrong. We got absolutely drenched. But I mean, in hindsight now, in the moment, I was like, I'm hating getting soaked like a fucking.
But it was great laughing.
But in hindsight, it added to the vibes.
Contributed to the enjoyment.
Yeah.
But so, that was great. That was a great time. As we saw each other in IRL. But my favourite moment for watching TV or film or playing a game this week, a quick side note, and I won't go into it too much because we're definitely going to do an episode on it, is Horizon Forbidden West. It's an incredible RPG, and I think I'm only a quarter away through the story. Kieran's completed the main story.
I reckon you're about 45%.
I'm about 45% apparently, but we'll be doing an episode on that, because if you've got a PlayStation number 1, it's something you got to do, especially if you've got a PlayStation 5.
If you got a PlayStation 5, it's worth holding out for a PlayStation 5 to play it, because
you did, didn't you? You managed to get your bundle on it. So that's a great game, and we'll be discussing that in the future soon. But my favourite TV show I watched this week was something called Big Boys on Channel 4, and I've been telling Kieran to watch it because it's amazing. It's a comedy writer. He wrote and directed it, Jack Rook. He's a young chap, and it's about him when he went to university, and he's like sexuality journey, but it's not just incredibly about a gay chap who goes to uni. It's about him and more of his friendship with a boy he meets. And in the first episode, you think he's quite a 2D character, and Jack describes him himself as a take me out contestant. But that character has a lot more depth to it, and it grows throughout the 6 episodes. And that's what's quite cool about it. It's only 6 episodes, and it's all of them are quite emotional. I haven't for a long time, apart from This Is England, watched a TV show which has been so funny, but also quite emotional and upsetting. And Big Boys is it. Big Boys is really good. Its best strength is the character of Danny being the straight ally for his gay mate Jack, and it's just hilarious and weird. There's bits in it where he takes him to this grinder hookup he has, and Danny's quite worried about him, and he drops him off to this chap's house, and he says, "You'll be alright." He says, "I'll wait outside," and he says, "Just don't do anything I wouldn't do." And he says, Well, I wouldn't shag a man, but you know, he says I'll be here for you. He says I'll support you. But that's the type of. It's great. I definitely recommend it.
I wouldn't know what I'd choose my moment of the week because I've watched loads of repeats of things. I haven't actually watched anything new.
So we've been playing. Obviously, I stopped at Kieran's house when we went to Imagine Dragons for the weekend. So we've been playing a lot of Battlefield 2042.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I don't want to speak for Kieran particularly too hastily, but we won't do an episode on Battlefield 2042 because
there's no story.
There's no campaign or story. It's just the sweaty multiplayer.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, I suppose, an offhand sort of moment of the week then for me, I guess, is...
It was just earlier on before we started playing.
Yeah, we've got a good luck playing it, to be fair, and I think it's going to... Because, I mean, we were quite obsessed with Apex, but we find, like, Apex Legends, but we find it's become an absolute sweat fest now, and unless you play that game, like, 24/7, right, you're just not good enough to play that game anymore, because it's just... I mean, there's so many memes I see of it. It's like, I've had a very stressful day at work. I'll go home and de-stress playing Apex, and then you just end up screaming more at you.
Throwing your controller.
Like, I enjoy Apex. I think Apex is a brilliant game. I love the lore and, like, the story of the Outlaws and all that.
It sounds cocky and it sounds silly, but I think what we've both enjoyed about it is having the confidence to feel good at FPS again, because you go from playing Apex, where me especially, because Kieran's a better player than me, but go on to Battlefield to getting 20 kills a match or something.
Yeah, like Battlefield.
At least, or
plus Battlefield caters
25.
to sort of any player style. Like, if you want to hide in the corner of the map and fly a drone, you can do that and just get, like, spot assists and spot bonuses. Or if you want to be, like, lobbing grenades constantly or sniping halfway across the map, or
swooping down in a wingsuit, throwing some cheeky grenades at the objective, getting a multi-kill.
Yeah, or running around as a medic, and you do not even shoot your gun once. You're just reviving and lobbing syringes and shit at everyone. You know, like, you totally caters to different play styles, and that's quite beneficial for, like, a friend group. So it opposed to Apex. Plus, there's 4 of us, so we could. there's not one left out playing Apex.
Nobody gets left out, or particularly me, when Kieran's playing with his brother and sister-in-law smashing Apex when it's a trios and you're in Diamond.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, Mikey, I can't play. I'm playing with other people.
But
now we can all play together.
Has a large scale and it feels epic.
Yeah, there's vehicles, destructive. I mean, I've always been a Battlefield fan over...
So Kieran's been there from the beginning?
From the beginning.
Like
I never played Battlefield 1, as in, like, the original one. Like, Bad Company 1.
Yeah.
I started Bad Company 2 is when I started playing it. But I always prefer Battlefield over Modern Warfare for one simple reason: destructive environments.
Yeah, it stops campers. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
Despite me, like, loving a good camp. With COD 4 back in the day, you could camp on Crossfire, just set up a claymore and snipe. And if you had 2 of you, one of you could snipe, one of you could sit on the door.
Yeah.
Where on Battlefield, that's not a thing which can happen, because you put
always...
C5 in this case and blow the building underneath their feet, and then they're dead.
There's always moments to, like, flank. There's many different, like I say, caters to many different styles. So we're having a lot of fun playing.
It's quite innovative. So just before we started the recording, I was playing it, and the jets are still quite hard to fly, I find. But I flew a jet straight into the objective, kamikazed it into 4 people, got like 4 kills without even shooting a bullet.
And you just flew
can't do that shot.
It's
can't do that shot on COD, like.
You just flew away in your wingsuit.
Just flew away in a wingsuit and fucked off like nothing happened. It's like, cool guys don't look at it, it's the explosions.
Yeah, I meant to do that.
I didn't even see them. I just thought, if I aim for the objective, maybe I'll get somebody else.
That's a good laugh, to be fair. Anyway,
thanks for listening.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember to catch us on different socials and
Instagram, on the YouTubes.
Yeah, we will catch you next time.
Have a good time.
Bye.